Why in the world are Florida Gators fans so optimistic heading into the 2024 season?
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Monday. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, as playoffs wind down, things maybe die out a little bit. The sports stop sporting like we want them to. Not all day, every day. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And you know what? Why the hell are Florida Gators fans so optimistic about the team heading into 2024? 2022 season, you go 6-7. 2023 season, you go 5-7. Just saying, 11-14 is not awesome, right? Trevor Etienne transferred. Presley Mielon transferred. However, there's plenty of reasons for Florida Gators fans to be optimistic about the 2024 season. I know. I wanted to fake you out a little bit. Wanted to fake you out a little bit here. I think first off, the main reason is roster improvement. I know, yeah. Princely Mielon hit the portal. He went to Ole Miss. Trevor Etienne hit the portal. He went to Georgia. Chris McClellan hit the portal, who we had high hopes for. He went to Missouri. Here's the thing. This team in 2023 was so ugly to watch often, right? But the whole selling point around that experience, and I don't mean the coaching team, I don't mean the coaching staff, I mean the actual team roster there. The whole selling point was, yeah, they're bad, but they're young. They're getting experience. You look at last year, I'm gonna pull up the numbers right now because last year you look at who played significant snaps on this team on offense and defense. A lot of youth, right? Looking at offensively, who played the most snaps was Ricky Pearsall. You go down to the sixth most snaps was Austin Barber, who spent the year hurt, did not play very well, but first year as a full-time starter because 2022 he played but rotated in. 2023, first year as a full-time starter, got hurt, missed 3 games, played a lot of snaps. Then Jake Slaughter played the seventh most snaps, second most snaps from that young offensive line group. You have Hayden Hansen played the 9th most snaps. Redshirt freshman last year. Eugene Wilson III played the 10th most snaps. Yeah, true freshman last year. Arliss Boardingham, redshirt freshman. You have Cameron Waits, young. Najee Harris as a true freshman. You had Andy Jean had the 22nd most snaps, redshirted after that. But quite a few names in the top 20. That's the top 20 for snaps played for the Florida Gators offense last year. Okay? That was the more senior part of it because you look at the defense, most snaps played, Jordan Castell, true freshman. True freshman. 7th is Shamar James with 8 games played, by the way. Like that's with missing 4 games. Shamar James had the 7th most snaps played. Yeah. Bryce Thornton's up there. You have Chris McClellan was up there, which obviously he's gone. But Kelby Collins, TJ Searcy, Jamari Lyons, Devin Moore, they all start piling up there because they played a lot of snaps, right? They did. There's a young team you look at. And that was only like freshmen and redshirt. That was only freshman and redshirt freshman. And then Jake Slaughter's a redshirt sophomore last year, if I'm not mistaken. But still, that's a young team out there that played a lot of snaps, right? Theoretically, they should considerably improve this coming season. And I talked about this a lot with some of these young guys where Jordan Castell, I believe, is the example I was talking about, where he played the entire season. Significant snaps the entire season. You get to go back, look at that film and say, hey, this is what you did well. This is what you didn't do well. This is where we need to work at. We're going to try to get you in more positions like this, whatever it is, right? So you look at that and you can work and improve off of that. Again, the main selling point for Florida Gators fans, while we sat through what was a horrendous season emotionally, mental health wise, was horrendous. We sat through and we went, well, team's young. Team's really inexperienced. So next year will be better. And it will be. You look at this year, I'm not even going to name any true freshmen for this year. No matter how, I know that there's quite a few of us that expect some to contribute, right? No, but you look at the transfer portal. You're adding in Elijah Badger. You lost Ricky Pearsall. You're adding in Elijah Badger. And I'm only naming guys that I think will contribute significantly this year, okay? Elijah Badger, Asa Turner, Jameer Grimsley has a chance to, DJ Douglas, Devin Manuel has a chance to, George Gums has a chance to, Grayson Howard will, Chimere DK will, Trequise Bridges has a chance to, Joey Slackman will, Brandon Crenshaw Dixon will. It's a lot of names, right? To just be adding in the portal that we think will contribute significantly. The only one of those that came in through this second window was Elijah Badger. Everyone's been here for the spring. Everyone got to work and develop a bit during the spring and got to build a bit of a chemistry there. I feel like that's pretty good reason to feel confident there. Like you look at the portal additions, and I named some that I said have a chance to, because when you look at the portal additions, there's guys that will either improve your starting depth chart immediately, your starters, your first string, starting rotation lineup, whatever the hell you want to call it, that'll improve that starting group immediately, or greatly improve your depth immediately, at least on paper, greatly improve your depth, right? Devin Manuel has a chance to contribute, probably going to be your third offensive tackle. That's fine. No problem with that. Joey Slackman, I do think will contribute. Or I do think will contribute significantly. Decent chance he doesn't even start. But you added a lot of guys who are going to make your football team considerably better. So one of the many reasons that Florida Gators fans are pretty optimistic for the 2024 season is that, at least on paper, and that's an important part to acknowledge, on paper, this roster got a lot better. Because you look at the returning depth, the returning starters, the returning youth, and the guys that came in, and you go, okay, this depth chart, I feel a lot more comfortable with this. Because it's true. You do feel more comfortable with this depth chart now. Because it got better. Offensive line, you've got your left tackle returning from last year, your center returning from last year. Your right guard this year was your right tackle this year. And then for me, look, I go, yeah, your film wasn't good at tackle, but guard's different, right? So I'm willing to not necessarily wipe the slate clean, but I'm willing to not be like, oh, I'm all the way out. New left guard, new right tackle. Cool. You lost Ricky Pearsall to the NFL. You brought in Chimere DK, who's going to contribute significantly, and Elijah Badger, who's probably going to be a starter, or who is going to be a starter. I don't know why I even said probably. But they combine with Trey Wilson, who's a freshman All-American last year. That's who you got at your receiver room right now. You're probably starting three, right? I'm pretty cool with that. I don't know about you. I'm pretty cool with it, right? Tight ends, you got two redshirt freshmen from last year returning as their redshirt sophomores now. Feel pretty good about that, right? You should feel pretty good about it. If you don't, you should. Just know that. And if you disagree, you're wrong. Shamar James was a true sophomore last year, was banged up last year, coming back healthy with a true sophomore Pup Howard at linebacker next to him. You've got a safety that started in the national championship, joining Jordan Castell, who played more snaps than anyone else on this defense, starting at safety room. Feel pretty good about that. True sophomore Sharif Denson or redshirt freshman Aaron Gates are expected to start at the nickel role, the slot, star, whatever you want to call it. Feel pretty good about that. See where I'm going with this? On paper, this roster is going to be significantly improved from last year. That's something to be really freaking optimistic about. Another thing is your starting quarterback position. Florida Gators fans, myself included, feel pretty damn good about it. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop, ever. But as playoffs wind down, we get fewer games. The MLB has like random days where there's nothing on during the day. And they're like, you know what? We're going to have all 7 of our games in between the 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. window. Some of it doesn't make sense like that. Sports aren't sporting like I want them to, right? Luckily for now, we've got the Euros, Copa America. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app, dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. I could do it right before bed. I'm like, throw a little bit on tennis. Got Ben Shelton, so why not? And this summer, FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day, every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And like I said, there's reasons for Florida Gators fans to be optimistic. There's fans that are more optimistic than I am, less optimistic than I am. That's fine. Everybody is basing it off their own expectations and projections, right? So that's fine. That explains it. One of the reasons that Florida Gators fans are optimistic, though, you got Graham Mertz coming back in year 2 in your offense. And I know I was one of the people that when Graham committed to Florida, I was like, hey, I'm not super ecstatic about this. I think that, I said, and I own it, that I said this. I was like, hey, I think he's going to be average, but better than Wisconsin. But average, don't think he'll ever win you games, which, by the way, he did go and win you games. You lose South Carolina without him. You lose South Carolina if that's not Graham Mertz. Through 423 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Hell of a game, right? It was a comeback victory. It was wild. It was ecstatic. It was electric. It was incredible. I can't stress how important year 2 as a starter in an offense is. Okay? And I know Russ Callaway was hired as co-OC. There's going to be some offensive changes. That's fine. Fundamentally, foundationally, same offense. Okay? You can look at quarterbacks in year 2 and the progress they made. I've said this about Graham Mertz. So Graham Mertz's stats last year, he had a 72.1% completion percentage, which if you adjust for drops, was really 80.2%. Okay? If you adjust for drops, so any ball that was dropped is caught instead, then he's got an 80.2% completion percentage. Okay? Great. 20 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Big time throws on PFF, 15. Turnover worthy plays on PFF, which is rushing included, 6 in the entire season. 2,910 yards without finishing the Missouri game, without playing the Florida State game. And also that Tennessee game, they kind of just ran the ball out. There was stuff going on. 8 yards per attempt last year. And an average depth of target of 6.7 yards, which means that every time he threw the ball, the person he was targeting was on average 6.7 yards past the line of scrimmage. Okay? Had 8 passes batted at the line, which isn't awesome. Pressured 120 times, sacked 28 times, 23.3% of the times he was pressured, he was sacked. Okay? I think that when you look, and I'm saying these not to just say these, I'm not trying to just throw numbers at you. I'm saying I think this year that 72.1% completion percentage comes down a little bit. I do. I think you get down to, I think it comes down to about 68 to 70%, 69%. Nice. So 68 to 70% drops a little bit. I think his yards per attempt goes up, maybe, 8.59, whatever that may be. I think that yards is going to go up. I think that touchdowns is going to go up. I think interceptions is going to go up. I think big time throws probably goes up. I think turnover worthy plays probably goes up. Okay? I think his average depth of target goes up. I think that's one of the big selling points for this team. And one of the big ways that this offense will work is that when you have Graham Mertz in year 2, he even said, he's like, last year during spring ball, I didn't even know people's names. I was just kind of showed up and started doing it. This year, having that year 2, you get more confidence and you look at the team around him. Offensive line should be better. Pressure rate is probably going to stay the same. That was one of my big issues with Graham at Wisconsin, was that for how often he's pressured, he gets sacked a good amount. And that was going to be one of the biggest drop-offs from Anthony Richardson to Graham Mertz, was that Anthony Richardson's number was like I think it was every 11 pressures he got sacked. Here it's every 4. Like, that's a massive drop because AR could create so much with his legs. That's not going to happen for Graham, right? But with Graham, I think that in year 2, you see more comfort. You see an offensive line that's going to be better suited for him. You have, I don't want to say a better top receiver because Ricky Pearsall was a first-round pick. It's hard to be better than that. But I think a better receiving room, bringing in Elijah Badger. I think Ricky's better than Badger, but they're also different kinds of receivers. Having Trey Wilson in year 2. Having all the young guys from last year step up, you're probably going to have a true freshman from this year contribute in some way, shape, or form as a pass catcher. Okay? I think that you see Graham get more aggressive. The number that I'm most confident is going to climb this year is that average depth of target. You look at Graham Mertz's average depth of target. Actually, this is perfect. Freshman year, 6.7, which is the same number he had with Florida in year 1. His second year at Wisconsin, 7.1. Third year at Wisconsin, 9.8. Fourth year at Wisconsin, 10.6. He wants to try to get the ball downfield, but he needs, the thing with Graham, and I was talking about this last week, he needs a pocket to step up into, and he did not have that last year. Graham can make a lot happen, but Graham needs the team around him to function properly in order for him to do it. Like Anthony Richardson can just create stuff out of nothing. AR can just create it. Graham needs that team around him, and I think this year he's got more of that team around him. We'll have a better offensive line. Yeah, we'll have a better offensive line. We'll have more experienced pass catchers. We'll have Trey Wilson in year 2, who, don't forget, Trey Wilson was a mid-year enrollee last year that spent a good bit with a hamstring injury. It wasn't like he had the whole spring and summer and offseason to develop and work and grow and get better and get chemistry with this team. That didn't happen for Trey. So I think that when you look at this year, you have that. And Graham's here the whole time. Graham has command of this team. Graham has command of this offense. I think you look at that and you go, all right, like there's reasons to be optimistic about what Graham can do. You look at past quarterbacks that have done it. Kyle Trask took over for Felipe Franks in that Kentucky game. Huge strides in that offseason. He took over as the full-time starter there. Huge strides in that next season with the Heisman campaign. And that's if you want a Florida reason. Okay? You look at Jackson Dart with Ole Miss. He saw the same number of passes. It was higher efficiency numbers, more yards, more touchdowns, less picks. Michael Penix, because Jackson Dart came from USC, went to Ole Miss. Michael Penix went from Indiana to Washington. Similar numbers of attempts, but bigger increase in those efficiency metrics with a Heisman campaign in his second year with Washington. Look at Jaden Daniels. Threw the ball way less last year with LSU, but way better in efficiency while winning the Heisman. And then, of course, there's Bo Nix, who I think is the best situational comp for Graham Mertz. Different players, but when Bo Nix transferred from Auburn to Oregon, people were ridiculing him. They were just ridiculing him. They were ridiculing Oregon. They were like, this is going to be horrible. When Graham went from Wisconsin to Florida, it was them ridiculing Graham, ridiculing Florida, saying it was going to go horribly. And the season went poorly, but it wasn't because of Graham. It wasn't. And so I look at that situation. Like, play style-wise, they're different, obviously. Bo Nix is more mobile. Graham Mertz is a better, just pure thrower of the football. Okay? I don't know how the hell Bo Nix was the number 12 overall pick. That'll never happen again. Okay. That was just Sean Payton being Sean Payton. But Bo Nix in his second year with Oregon, significantly more attempts because they threw the ball a lot more. And he also just took off running less. But a huge jump in the efficiency passing numbers. And he was a Heisman candidate. Like you look at year 2 for a quarterback in college football, and it's so valuable. And now you look at year 2, and Graham has a better team around him. Offensively, defensively, it's a better team with quarterback coming back for year 2. That's huge. Cannot be overstated. It's just not possible to be. It's truly invaluable to talk about the quarterback consistency here. But also, then you look at what you go a step higher also, and you look at what the coaching staff did and the changes they made, and you go, all right, reasoning to be confident here, right? With passion, drive, and patience, that's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance with superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, anything you need. Anything, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your parts guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Make your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply, and eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And to wrap up today's show, I need to have a conversation about the coaching staff changes that were made because Florida underwent a lot of coaching staff changes this past offseason, or at least I consider them a lot. Offensively, the changes were assistant offensive line coach Darnell Stapleton went to the Washington Commanders. He got hired from Dan Quinn because Dan Quinn hires Florida. That's Dan Quinn's hiring process. The interview is, did you go to Florida? And he goes, yeah. And then he goes, well, you're hired somewhere. We'll find a role for you, but you're hired. Or do you have any connection to Florida? Come on. And that's how it works with Dan Quinn. That's also how he drafts players usually. So there's that. But so Darnell Stapleton went to Washington Commanders. Okay. Jonathan DeCoster was his replacement. And Jonathan DeCoster was an assistant with the Cleveland Browns, who had one of the best offensive lines in the NFL last year and have had one of the best offensive lines in the NFL for quite a few years. Jonathan DeCoster is now there. And seemingly everyone loves him. I don't know. I just feel like every time that we talk about an offensive line recruit now, they go, oh yeah, I love what Jonathan DeCoster brings. Like love him. That seems to be a big talking point, which is great for Florida, right? Long term, hopefully, ideally, it works out. Offensively, also, a bigger move where you weren't necessarily replacing someone, but Russ Callaway promoted to co-offensive coordinator. Russ Callaway had a hand in some of the offense last year when things started changing up. You can kind of see when it happened. But he had a hand in things changing up and red zone improvement and things like that working. And you could see it. And this year, he's going to have more of a hand there. We don't know fully what's exactly going to be the responsibility split up, but he was brought in as co-OC or promoted to co-OC. He's still the tight ends coach as well. But he has that air raid principles. I want to say this real quick. Please, I'm begging you, if you're a Florida Gators fan and people start talking about Russ Callaway, please don't mention the game where Samford scored like 50-something in the swamp against Florida. And I say that not to go, oh, we should erase that game from our existence. I say that because Russ Callaway was not with Samford when that happened. And people, I keep hearing and seeing people on Twitter go, oh, yeah, and I mean, Reddit, Discord, everything. People go, oh, yeah, Russ Callaway, that Samford offense that gave Florida hell. Nothing to do with Russ Callaway. Like, it was still principles, some of his players, sure. But, like, Russ wasn't there. Russ was with the New York Giants when that happened. He had nothing to do. He was with Rob Sale and the New York Giants and Sean Spencer with the New York Giants when that happened. Come on now. Be better. Be better. Just wanted to, I got to get that off my chest whenever it comes up because it makes no sense. And it just makes you go, okay, this person is just saying things that they were told. Got it. Incorrectly. Got it. Because if you just do your simple research and you look it up and you go, oh, that didn't happen. Crazy, right? Now, on the defensive side of the ball, way more coaching changes, way better coaching changes. Florida and Billy Napier fired Sean Spencer and Corey Raymond. And I will stand on this. I've stood on this since the day it happened, and I will continue to stand on it. The reasoning, and I will say this, I have no confirmation for this. I'm just so confident it's true. That the reason Billy Napier fired them instead of doing his usual, we're going to let you find a new job, and then when you get that, we'll replace you, is that I think they were chatty Cathys. I do. Just look at the coaching staff at that time that Florida fired people before early signing day, before they tried to make some moves, and they fired them. Did not have an immediate plan to replace them. But I think that Florida was like, hey, you know what? Or Billy Napier was like, hey, you know what? We need to stop the leaks. Because every time that Florida seems to be building momentum, it goes, yeah, Florida's planning on doing this. It hits the Twitter timeline. And then other schools come in and swoop in and take those kids. My theory is that it's hitting the Twitter timelines because those two were chatty Cathys. That's what I'm saying. I think they were the source of leaks. That's just my thought process. Because again, Billy Napier has had worse coaches that he's let find other jobs throughout his career. He's done that. But those two he fired, a little weird to me. Could also be that he didn't have a prior relationship with them, really. Sean Spencer was a New York Giant coach, and then Penn State, and I do think that Penn State, then New York Giants. And I do think that the part of Sean Spencer that got hired was because of Rob Sale, who was with the New York Giants with him. I think that was a big part of it. But that's just where I stand. And Corey Raymond is just thought of as a DB guru, and he just phoned it in. But you brought in Gerald Chapman from Tulane to replace him, and Gerald Chapman has a fantastic reputation. He's getting old Florida Gators players back involved. He had Stephen Harris there this past weekend posting a picture at like a cookout that they had. Awesome stuff to see. And Gerald Chapman's one that'll get after you. I told you guys when Gerald Chapman got hired, I texted a Tulane source, and the Tulane source responded with, F you, leave him alone. And like as in F you, leave Gerald Chapman alone. And so that was the response there. So he's loved. Okay, he's loved. As NFL experience with Carlos Dunlap and the Bengals. He was there with LSU for a bit. He's got experience. He's been around. Okay. Will Harris brought in the coach to secondary. I mean, he was with Washington when they were having first round DB. And I've said, Jimmy Lake probably did a lot of that work just because Jimmy Lake, who was the head coach in DC at the time, fantastic DB coach. He's thought of as one of the best DB coaches around as well. And so I was like, hey, maybe it wasn't Will Harris. Maybe Will Harris wasn't doing the coaching. Maybe it was Jimmy Lake. But here's the thing. Either Will Harris was doing a lot of the coaching there and getting those guys into the NFL in the first round, or Will Harris was watching Jimmy Lake do it and hopefully took notes on how to do it and was there for that. Then, of course, you have head coach of the defense. I think it's executive head coach of the defense, Ron Roberts, coming in, who I'll die for Ron Roberts. I've said that a million times. Ron Roberts is one of my favorite coaches on the planet right now. Just schematically, game plan wise, I think he's phenomenal. I've always said that. Austin Armstrong will still be calling the defense, but I do think that Ron Roberts' impact will be felt throughout the defensive game planning and scheme and how all that's going to play out. I think Ron Roberts will help Austin Armstrong rein in the errors, but open up the playbook as well. That's one of my hopes here. If you're unfamiliar with Ron Roberts, get familiar because he's a dude. Just want to throw that out there. Like, he's a dude. So I need to get that out there on Ron Roberts. Like I've said, I said this when Billy Napier first got hired. I was like, I want Ron Roberts to be the DC. Because Ron Roberts is someone I've been a massive fan of for years now. Not going back to the Delta State days, but like back to the Louisiana days. I knew who Ron Roberts was. Baylor, dog, right? The Dave Aranda defense, the Dan Lanning defense, the Pete Golding defense, a lot of that, Ron Roberts. Big role in just establishing that scheme. So, yeah, huge fan of Ron Roberts. Think he's going to make a massive impact this year. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day, every day. Reasons to be optimistic. Just saying. We'll be back tomorrow to talk more Florida Gators football. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Giants, Country, and NFL 33, and I'll see you all next time.